Welcome to the 2026 Yellow Ladybugs Conference.
Nothing is more important in a classroom than a safe teacher-student relationship. If there is not a safe relationship established, learning cannot happen.
There should not be one school in Australia that does not have an openly autistic teacher teaching in the learning support department or wellbeing.
But that really big push requires lived experience people to be involved in those big systems things.
They're often not struggling less. They're simply struggling more quietly.
And so a lot of pressure is put on girls and gender diverse people to actually control themselves, to suppress their distress, to suppress their autistic traits and not be aggressive as well, to not express things physically in an aggressive way and get that energy out and moving.
A big piece is understanding masking and camouflaging as coping mechanisms. So a shift is to consider, okay, they may be looking you in the eye, they may have friends, they may use gesture, they may be warm, empathic, and they still may be autistic. It's just part of the territory.
Because we're so sensitive, because we live in an environment we're not comfortable, that system for us of hyper-alert, hyper-vigilance is really working over time. And that has long-term consequence, right? It makes us being hyper-vigilant, more tired, as you said, more at risk for depression, anxiety. In the long term, it's an explanation why so many autistic adults have more or early heart disease, high blood pressure.
Burnout isn't a choice. When they stop, it's because they've gone, I literally cannot do anymore. I've pushed myself so far beyond my limit. That is it.
Even around that higher primary school, 5, 6, I really try to be so firm with parents that one of the biggest priorities needs to be burnout prevention, not academic achievement. It just makes no logical sense to me. I understand education is very important, but if your basic needs of a human, like being in a state of homeostasis and having your nervous system be regulated, if that's not there, you're not learning anything anyway.
The difference is that my trauma responses seek to protect me from what happened to me. My PDA seeks to protect who I am.
If we can become generous interpreters of each other as humans, of our kids, and assume behavior makes sense, then we can get back to the place where we can start contacting each other's humanity again.
The rule was be yourself, but then be myself got me in trouble and people weren't happy. And so only after the fact did I replay that and went, was that the right choice? Is the rule be yourself or not be yourself? I couldn't decide.
We need to remember and tell ourselves this every day and write it on the wall that we are still inherently valuable humans, even when we get it wrong, even when we make mistakes, and whether we are meeting expectations or not.
The outcomes that link to why things happen, that makes sense to the autistic brain. Whereas go do this because you did something naughty, that makes no sense and creates a massive feeling of injustice that can be absolutely overwhelming.
We don't need compliant adults. We actually need well-regulated, self-aware adults who can navigate different expectations, different experiences, different demands of the real world.
If the behaviour is something that the child is being forced to do to meet adult or societal expectations, if it's involving suppressing the child's feelings, ignoring their needs, if it involves them being afraid of consequences or not attaining a goal, if it's ignoring their natural way of being and prioritising neurotypical norms, or perhaps it's just being put in place because it makes an adult's life easier, then there's an enormous cognitive and emotional cost.
If school is unsafe, if school feels unmanageable at the moment and now home feels less safe and a place where I can't enjoy the things that would help me restore my energy and recover, what's left for our kids? Where is it safe?
Asking kids to override their safety responses instead of making environments safe is actually really dangerous. And, I see that in my work with adults who've gone through similar stuff.
But what we really need to do is to stop and to listen and to pay attention and to find out what's going on for our young person and then to support them through that. And education can come later. And whatever form it takes, whether you're back in school or whether you've taken another path.
As soon as someone is identified with autism, with other autistic traits, their whole communication style and socializing preferences goes under a microscope for judging every little thing as broken, as pathology that needs to be fixed. We no longer allow them their own style preferences and how they do like to communicate, how they do like to play.
We lose diversity. We lose self-expression. We lose meaningful connection. When people stop communicating authentically as themselves, and they cannot connect authentically with other people. So then you have a disconnected person, and that means that the other person also feels disconnected.
If we are scared of these kids and scared of autism, they're going to be scared of themselves and so is everyone else, and it's just going to be this like vicious cycle.
Two things can contradict and they can be true at the same time. So, we've said it, I think at the very beginning, Katie said, my ladybug is in great distress and it's really scary and I don't know what to do, and they also deserve dignity right now. So that's a good example of things that I think instinctively we might put a but in between, like we have to choose one or the other, and we don't.
Like the language you use in prioritizing that safety without threat or control, if you don't stop, there will be consequences, is vastly different from I can't let you hurt yourself or others, or and so I guess making sure that boundaries and prioritizing safety feels like care rather than punishment.
For people with ARFID, food feels genuinely unsafe. And the example that I give sometimes is if someone handed you something that you knew was poisonous, right? I don't know, some kind of mushroom, it could be anything. And then they tell you though, no, I promise you that's safe, you can eat that. But your body's like, absolutely no way am I gonna eat that. And it wouldn't matter how hungry you were, it wouldn't matter what situation you were in. If your body was telling you that that was dangerous, you're going to fight to not eat it. You're going to avoid, you're going to do all of the things to try to save yourself. And we need to realize that that's what the nervous system is actually doing.
I want you to know that what you're doing is good enough as well. So if you're a parent of a child with ARFID, of a ladybug with ARFID, if you have ARFID, just showing up with curiosity, flexibility and love, that's what matters. You don't have to do this perfectly. Remember, there's no right or wrong. It's just basically moving forward with love.
It might seem like your yellow ladybug has completely changed into a new person, but it's just important to keep reminding yourself that they are still the same person underneath. If they seem like they're giving you a hard time, like they're getting into trouble, they're doing things which don't seem right, these are signs that your child, that they are needing your support and help and compassion. It's not that they've become a bad person, it's that they're showing you signs that something's going on for them, that they need your support and understanding.
You need to shift from co-regulation that is in front of your ladybug to parallel regulation, right? So a bit like those PDA strategies of why don't instead of saying, can you come with me, it's I'm going over here if you'd like to come or not, right? It's the parallel regulation is just as important, because your presence, the calm of your presence doesn't go away, right? You're still the safety person, but the sensory signals that you're giving might be being misinterpreted.
If you're monotropic, your attention is more like, I'm going to use another analogy, it's more like a kind of a garden hose or like a laser beam, if you see what I mean. So it's you're using, your attention goes into fewer channels but at greater depth and intensity.
You're not being difficult. It's not a case that you need to be more resilient. It's actually that I need to do some work here to make you feel safe. It's my job to make you feel safe. It's my job to make things more predictable.
Then what we're doing effectively is we're shutting down a huge amount of our communication as autistic individuals, as young ladybugs. So what happens then is that we're becoming so compliant focused, and again we get into that whole thing of we learn not to speak up, we learn not to object.
Knowing that your young person can come to you and say like, hey, this is actually really scary and I need an adult is so important.
The need for connection hasn't changed. Humans are humans. We all need to feel that sense of belonging and that sense of need, and lean into that special interest, whatever it may be.
Sit down and play with kids, and a lot of kids are really keen to just share their interest.
Autism, there's different perspectives of disability in First Nations communities around being just a normal aspect of human variation, which is more similar to the social model of disability, and that everybody has a role to play in community. It might just look different for different people.
I mean, the statement is not us saying that every teacher or school is intentionally racist. Rather, it's pointing to systemic issues, patterns and structures within education that may continue to disadvantage First Nations students.
We think providing a culturally safe environment for our students and families is really important. There's many ways that we're currently providing that. One is by having the one-on-one support from myself. That support works really well if we do have families that are struggling to engage with the school. To have someone from a First Nations background really provides that connection for the families. Other ways we're doing that is by providing cultural safety training for staff members, working with the staff too on providing really strong curriculum, so embedding Aboriginal perspectives across as many areas as we can in that space.
So now that we understand sensory processing, what sensory processing is and how it shows up differently for different people, the next question is, where does it sit? Because sensory processing does not exist in a vacuum. It's actually the foundation that everything else is built on. Imagine a pyramid. Everything we tend to focus on, academic learning, socializing, behavior, daily living tasks, all of that sits at the top. But it's built on layers. Before you get to learning, you need attention, visual spatial awareness, eye-hand coordination. Before that, you need body awareness, postural control, motor planning, and at the very base, the central nervous system, your sensory systems. And if that base is destabilized, if the nervous system is overwhelmed with detecting a threat, everything above it becomes harder to access. Not because a person lacks the skills, but because their nervous system isn't in a state where those skills are readily available to them. You can't build a pyramid from the roof down. But that's what we keep doing. We keep asking autistic people to perform top of the pyramid skills, attend, focus, socialize, regulate without checking what's happening at the base. And when the body doesn't feel safe, the brain cannot learn. So if regulation is the foundation and the foundation keeps being destabilized, what's doing it?
Dysregulation often doesn't feel good. So when I talk about children learning how to regulate their nervous system, it's not about suppressing the message. It's about minimising distress while still listening to what the nervous system is communicating, and also understanding that sometimes sitting in dysregulation before jumping straight into regulation activities is actually what's needed. Autistic individuals are already working so hard to live in a world that isn't designed for us, so our nervous systems can get stuck in survival states more easily. However, and I want to be very clear about this, the nervous systems of autistic individuals are not broken, they are not misfiring, and they are not overreacting. They are doing exactly what they were designed to do and doing it extremely well. I don't say this because I'm autistic, I say this because I understand how the nervous system works and it's literally a fact. And what if, while acknowledging that, we can also be grateful for it and we can increase nervous system capacity so that engaging in a world that's not designed for us is a little easier as our best regulated, authentic version of ourselves. When I advocate for nervous system literacy and regulation, this is why. Because while the world is designed the way it is, and societal demands that exist still remain, autistic individuals will continue to experience dysregulation, as there is a mismatch between our needs and the environments that we are in.
Saying yes to people when I shouldn't is the first skill listed on my resume. A month ago, when I started to write this, all I could think of was, why did Katie ask me? I am not the person to ask about this. I have never been to this side of the map. I don't go there. I don't know how to self-advocate. I don't have any of those skills. I never learned how. Anybody in this room today will do a better job of talking about this side of the map than me. I am missing. Do you know what? I should not teach anybody to self-advocate for the same reason that I should not teach anybody how to do a backflip. I am missing critical skills in both of these areas. Anything I say about either one is purely speculative. I don't have facts, I have theories. And what use is that to any of you?
Imagine this lovely Lego backpack, special interest by the way, if anyone wants to talk about it, belongs to one of your quiet students. All right, there we go. Now these bricks represent things that you don't see. We've got sensory overload, masking, fluctuating capacity, social rule monitoring, not feeling safe, anxiety, processing language, holding my body still, physical discomfort, physical exhaustion, learning differences, and trying not to stand out. So, these all go in here. All right, how does that feel? Yeah. And that's exactly the point. At first, it feels manageable. But the problem isn't carrying the backpack. The problem is carrying it all day without ever feeling safe enough to take it off. Through every lesson, through every transition, through every instruction you're trying to process while your nervous system is already full.
You know, we're not looking at a completely different form of autism. You know, there's no such thing as female autism, male autism, gender diverse autism. It's just autism. People are autistic. And we're still looking at all of these different behaviours on the slide here because these children still do need to meet DSM criteria for autism, right? So we're looking still at social communication, at play, at interests, looking at repetition, routines or sensory differences. But what we're doing is we're paying more attention to pattern, to flexibility and content. So in social communication, as mentioned before, a child may use eye contact, use gestures, be socially motivated. But the question is how those skills work together. Is communication flexible and reciprocal, or is it mainly used to request, direct, explain, or stay within a preferred topic? In play, we need to ask how the play works with another person. Can it be shared, extended, negotiated, and changed? Or is it organised around familiar scripts, preferred themes, or particular ways of doing things? So this isn't about saying that the way that the child plays or engages is wrong. It's about noticing where the traits and support needs become more visible when play involves another person or other people.
So this is a feelings cauldron. This is really good for a classroom with teachers. So it's a little bit different on here. But basically you can think about and ask your younger ladybugs, are there any colours, shapes, objects? Are there any sensations, parts of a book? Like a character, do you feel like Elsa today? Do you feel like a particular phrase? You can also use the ND Feels Wheel with that as well, that access tool. The next one that I want to show you is actually after Sandhya's cards, which I love. These are amazing for also reverse engineering, understanding someone's kind of emotional experience. So what's really funny here is, I'll just pull out a few really quick. So people telling me what to do, not knowing what to say or do, sitting still, can't find what I need, feeling rushed, too much peopling, can't get it right, too much noise, feeling misunderstood and feeling left out. All of those things resonated for me the last time I tried to use a mainstream feelings wheel by themselves, which was really funny. I was like, hey, oh my gosh, I feel so seen. And also they're actually really great ways to kind of make sense of how we're feeling. Who says we can't say it in a phrase?
Oh yes, no, today we're talking about autistic friendships. So we thought we'd start with our story. Do you want to? There's no notes. Do you want to? This is Joy. I'll start? Yeah. Okay, cool. So this is the story of how Marie and I became friends. We just observed each other online. I was like, that is a cool person. And hopefully you thought the same.
I did. We didn't actually have a conversation one-on-one at all at the time I sent this text message.
Yeah. You did send me 2 journal articles, and I just said thank you.
With no text, just sent them. Penguin Pebble. But so my very first initiating social contact, I guess, with Sandhya, other than sending journal articles, was so when I want to go to an event, I buy 2 tickets, even if I don't know anyone who might want to go with me. Anyway, that means I have an extra Hannah Gadsby ticket. I bought it over a year ago. If you'd be interested, like, I want you to come along. So very autistic. And upon reading it back when we made the slides, I was like, oh, I see now why neurotypicals think I'm rude.
I can see that, but I loved it, clearly. I was like, oh my God, she feels the same way that I do. Yes, I will go with you, and that is a picture of us having cocktails. Because initially we just went to Hannah Gadsby, sat in silence, and then we're like, okay, bye now. Maybe we should go for cocktails, do that thing.
People in the autistic population, but being autistic doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to develop an anxiety disorder, okay? So we want to kind of keep that separate. But what I want to kind of take you through in this kind of introductory slide is some of the factors related to autistic information processing that can contribute to a feeling of overwhelm, so that the load on the nervous system means that you might find different situations more overwhelming than someone who is maybe non-autistic. And then I'm going to kind of go through the different anxiety disorders that we have in the DSM-5 TR that we use to diagnose anxiety as mental health conditions. So that it's recognising that you can be autistic and have autistic-related information processing overload and sensory-related overload that can feel like anxiety. And then we also have possibly co-occurring anxiety mental health conditions.
Pretty much the research says that autistic Aboriginal people don't exist, and I'm just like, hello, yes, we do. So that's the lens that I want to speak through today. And what I'm talking about with Joy, it's not something that's new or groundbreaking. A lot of legends from previous years, like Marie and Sandhya, have talked about Joy. So I'm really like lifting up their work and just adding, I guess, some dovetail of what I can take from the past to marry with what I see happening now. So if I go back to the past, if I think about, the many people I've had the privilege of working with in this career, especially the women and the girls, so many of us were shamed for our joys, for our spins, and our interests. So many adults who are autistic, who are women and girls, got the message like, your hobbies are too much, what makes you happy is too childish, is not cool, like you need to stop talking about it, you need to grow out of it, just move on. And that shame is often really painful until you have adults who feel a loss of connection to who they are, feel unsure about their identity.
So there is literally no way that we can get parenting wrong if we are seeking inwards and going, what can I do in this moment? What can I do in this moment? And sometimes the thing we choose isn't the ideal that we would want to choose, but we're always just going moment from moment to moment. Parenting, it's not a goal, it's not an outcome, it's a state of being. And there is just literally no way of getting it right because there is no right. Yay! Okay, second point. Your child's fluctuating capacity is not a problem. Same for you. So a lot of parents with fluctuating capacity feel like they're failing at parenting because they have fluctuating capacity. And we've become very neuroaffirming about understanding our children's fluctuating capacity and spiky profiles and needs.
So there's multiple analogies when we're thinking about supporting our unique individual children that I think are related to flowers. I love gardening, this is one of my spins. So when I created this was something that came to mind for me. So one of the analogies that you may all be familiar with is Em's beautiful visuals around children not being a disordered daisy, but being a rose. If any of you have seen that visual of children feeling like a
daisy that was disordered and didn't fit in with their peers, but actually they're an entirely different flower altogether. Or another commonly quoted phrase of when a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environment in which it grows, which I'm certain maybe many of you have also heard. So if we think about our children being flowers, then we could probably also think about our individual family dynamics as individual gardens, right? All gardens are going to look different. All gardens are going to need different things. They're going to be comprised of different people and different needs.
For me, I found my peers were not really people that I got along with on a deep level. I was both bullied, but I also was a bully as well at times, and my home life was exceptionally chaotic and unsafe. So I also couldn't trust people to be honest, and it felt like I experienced the world sort of backwards. So I had to learn to trust in people's tone or their physical mannerisms to kind of tell me what they were actually saying, because their words were quite inconsistent with what was happening, and that felt very unreliable and unsafe. So for me, it felt like wherever I wasn't really safe to be who I was. But simultaneously, I didn't really have this strong sense of who I was, because no matter how hard I tried or what I would do, I couldn't be anyone else but me. So I was intense, still am, confrontational, still am, sensitive, still am, and I was determined to understand myself. And I think there's a really big preconception that parents sometimes fear about whether they should let their kids know that they're autistic or not. And look, some teens definitely do not want to know, but generally as well, kids know when they're different. They absolutely know. And I think for me, my exploration was something that I adamantly pursued as a means of understanding what was wrong with me, even at the cost sometimes of relationships with family and friends. So I set myself, the trial and error exploration and experimentation, and that came at the cost of harming the ones that I loved. But more importantly, it actually hurt me the most. And I think that this wasn't acknowledged because everyone perceived the harm that was caused to them as this big issue, but didn't realise how much I was actually hurting. So with that being said, obviously it doesn't excuse what was happening, but that was the distress, especially as an externalizer. Like, I was a rage-filled teenager and child. Like I said before, it's carried on to adulthood. But thankfully, with a lot of self-work, I've become a lot less reactive and a lot more intentional with the way that I present outwardly. But teenage years were the hugest years for my exploration of self.
I think it was quite mixed. I simultaneously had a really strong sense of self, but that also came hand in hand with a really deep sense of not belonging and not fitting in. And because of the lack of awareness, let alone positive representation in society, which meant I didn't have the language or understanding of why I felt so different, I came to conclude, as I think so many autistic folk do, that this just meant that there was something really deeply, deeply wrong with me, like something inherently bad about me at my core, that if anyone were ever to know what that bad thing was, even though I didn't know what it was, turns out it wasn't, but alas, that I would just be unlovable, that no one would want to know me, things like that.
So when someone tells you, but they seem fine, they were chatting, they were laughing, I want you to hold that alongside the question, and what did that cost them? Because often that is where the truth of it lives.
What I would like us to move towards is intersectionality is not how are all the things you are, but actually talk about how are the structural frameworks you're within impacting you. Intersectionality doesn't always have to be relevant, right? Intersectionality is only relevant when the structure or system is penalising the unique intersectional experiences of the person. We are not always in structures that make us feel unsafe and are a source of disadvantage. So I really want to talk about this sense of, are you being listened to or not listened to because of the structural frameworks you're within?
And so we always kind of have to assume, especially when we're caring for someone else, like our ladybugs, that we don't understand the whole experience, but that's okay, because it's about us being curious. It's about us asking questions where possible, providing alternative communication methods to really be curious about what's happening, and then accept that this is really hard and scary for you. What can we do to make it easier? And it needs to not be about making the person just try harder, do better, because like I said, they don't have that control to switch off that anxiety.
Validating the experience of the individual. That's just understanding, compassion, like an effort to really go, what is going on for you? It's just change the world around the child or the human. For example, just reduce the stressors. It doesn't mean a person can't come up on stage and share. It does mean let's lower the lights, let's have a friendly space, let's have a plan, let's have all these things in place that help us just accommodate and make the hard things easier.
I don't know whether you knew how to fit yourself into a cage or whether you spent your whole life throwing yourself against the bars, but I know that we need you. I need you. Our kids need you. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for not giving up. We need each other, and that's what days like this are about. Thank you.
Thank you all, and we'll see you again.